Joining me now is Shadow Minister for Health and Aged Care, Senator Ruston. Senator, thank you so much for joining me. It is great to have you in the studio while you're here in Sydney. I've actually got a stack of things that, when I knew you were coming in here, I've got so many things that I want to cover with you. But first of all, the Bondi terror attack and the growing calls for a royal commission. Let's take a quick listen to what Opposition Leader Susan Lee said today.
The Prime Minister has always had the power to do something. In avoiding a Commonwealth Royal Commission, he is clearly avoiding the real call to action.
I just don't understand how the Prime Minister can continue to ignore calls from every aspect of the community. We've now seen business leaders sign that open letter today calling for a Royal Commission. What's it going to take for him to launch one?
Well, I mean, obviously that's a question you probably need to ask him, but I think every Australian is quite horrified that the Prime Minister, in the face of the worst terror attack we have seen ever on Australian soil, there are lots of questions that people are asking that need to be answered, and quite frankly, the families and the Jewish community deserve answers to how this was allowed or to actually happen. And the Prime Minister is sort of almost making light of everything that led up to the fact that we saw those devastating scenes a couple of weeks ago where these two gunmen destroyed the lives of so many Australians and completely and utterly destroyed the faith of a whole community that they were safe in this country. And so I don't understand how the Prime Minister can continue to behave like he is and refuse to have this Royal Commission. But I don't know, he seems particularly belligerent about this, so hopefully Australians will just keep putting the pressure on, and it has to come from everyday Australians, and maybe he might actually wake up one morning and realise that Australians want this Royal Commission and he's going to have to give them one.
Well, the calls are certainly not going to be stopping anytime soon. Let's go into your portfolio now, and this is where I have delved into a few different things that have caught my attention that I wanted to get your thoughts on. There were reports earlier this month that older Australians were cutting back on essential services because they just can't afford them under the government's new system. So the government then, not surprising, have not supported a Senate inquiry into their support at home program. Can you just tell us a bit about this inquiry and where it's currently at?
Well, we were really concerned that whilst we gave in principle support for a small part of the Aged Care Act to enable it to get in place, because we wanted the rights-based framework that the Act delivers to be available, because it puts people's choice and control and rights at the centre of the Act. But what the government actually did was hid in a whole heap of rules that weren't able to be scrutinised, things that have subsequently come out. And the most egregious, I think, of these ones, and there's plenty of them, don't get me wrong, was that of the 83,000 packages that they were forced to release during the passage of the Act, they've only released them at 60% of their value. So 93% of those packages are released at only 60% of the value of the packages. I mean, I just don't know how this government thinks it can get away with that. So older Australians are basically getting 60% of the value that they've been assessed as needing for the care they're receiving.
Is this part of, because I also noticed that the Minister put in some other provisions about the packages can be cut back when the demand exceeds available funding. So basically they're doing, correct me if I'm wrong, but I took that as they're basically rationing the system. Was that ever disclosed to Parliament or to the public, that was how they were planning to do this?
That's exactly what they're doing. They are rationing care to older Australians. This is the care that the government themselves has assessed an older Australian is needing a certain level of care, and then they're rationing that care. So they're doing it by either not giving them their packages when they need them. And we've seen the wait list blow out to over 12 months. And I mean, when you're a 93-year-old, 12 months is a very long time.
Yeah.
We've seen the number of people on the wait list. Over 200,000 older Australians have been assessed as needing care and don't have the care. And then we find out that the ones that actually are receiving their packages are only receiving them at 60%. I mean, I think Australians, older Australians and their families should be rightly very concerned and outraged that this government is more interested in protecting its bottom line than actually providing care to older Australians that they, quite frankly, clearly need.
And Senator, yesterday the energy rebates finished. And I thought this is probably, straight away it's going to hit household budgets. but it will also just really open the doors for people to start seeing how flawed Labor's energy policy is. What did you make about the rebates coming off?
Well, I mean, obviously, the reality of this is that the rebates were just a band-aid on a symptom. The root cause here is the failed energy policy. I mean, if this government had an energy policy that did what they promised it was going to do, remember the $275 we're getting off our power bills?
By 2025.
Yeah, and now we're sort of $1,300, $1,500, 40% increase in people's power bills. So unfortunately, Australians are about to feel the full force of this failed energy policy once the masking comes off because of the rebates that have been received. But, you know, the government's sort of very good, creates a problem, then spends taxpayers' money trying to put some sort of remedy in place to cover up the problem. Well, that just can't go on, and that's what we're seeing here. So Australians, unfortunately, are going to hit the reality of much, much higher energy bills this year.
Well, Senator, I really appreciate you coming in this evening, and keep up the fight. I know you're doing a lot of work. We didn't even get through half of the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about, but I really appreciate you coming in tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks, Jamie.